Welcome to the Act Club. The artist can thrive. I'm Ivan Mader, French actor based in Paris, 15 years in the industry. Every episode here is grounded on my research on neuroscience, psychology, philosophy and personal development, and applied to acting specifically and a career as an actor. Not generic mindset content, specifically for actors. Tools built for what you actually live as an actor. And today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. Let's go! Okay, let's begin. Tom Hanks, 2 Academy Awards, one of the most celebrated actors in Hollywood, said in 2016 to NPR, "No matter what we've done, there comes a point where you think, how did I get there? When are they going to discover that I am in fact a fraud and take everything away from me? There are days when I know that 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon I'm gonna have to deliver some emotional goods, and if I can't do it, that means I'm going to fake it. If I fake it, they might catch me faking it. If they catch me faking it, it's doomsday." Tom Hanks, 2 Oscars, doomsday. Jodie Foster, when she won her first Oscar, said, "I thought it was a fluke. I thought everybody would find out and they'd take it back. They'd come to my house. Excuse me, we're meant to give this to someone else. It was meant for Meryl Streep." And Meryl Streep herself said, "You think, why would anyone want to see me again in a movie? I don't know how to act anyway, so why I am doing this?" 3 of the most accomplished actors in history, multiple Oscars, and they feel it. They all feel like fraud. And if you're feeling this right now, you're in good company. And today I'm going to explain exactly what happens in your brain when you feel this way. And more importantly, what it actually means. Let's start at the beginning, because imposter syndrome has a precise history. In 1978, 2 clinical psychologists at Georgia State University, Pauline Rose Clance and Susan Imes, noted something unusual in their clients. These women have advanced degrees, they've won academic awards, they are recognized experts in their field, and almost all of them believe they got here by accident. Clance and Imes published a paper, "The Imposter Phenomenon in High-Achieving Women." Do note, it was not imposter syndrome back in the days, it was imposter phenomenon, and I must say I prefer the term phenomenon because syndrome sounds like a disease. Phenomenon is something that we note and happens, and it's normal. So, these 2 psychologists describe the patterns in over 150 patients. A deep internal experience of intellectual funniness. A feeling of being a fraud that persists regardless of external proof. Their clients didn't just have occasional doubts. They maintain elaborate narratives about luck, timing, charm, or the incompetence of their evaluators explain their success. Everything except their own abilities. Pauline Clance says herself, "Most people who experience the imposter phenomenon would not say, 'I feel like an imposter.' But when they see or hear about this experience, they say, 'How do you know how I was feeling?'" Since these original studies, research has expanded the profile. It's no longer limited to women. Current estimate, 70% of people experience it at some point. And this is the paradox that changes everything. It's most common in the most competent people. And here's where it gets counterintuitive and specifically brutal for you actors. You might think that the imposter syndrome will dissipate after the success, that with enough proof accumulated, the brain will convince itself It's the opposite. The more you succeed, the higher the stake, the more visible you become, the more responsibility you carry, the more intense it gets, because the more you have to lose. Emma Watson said it precisely. It's almost like the better I do, the more of feelings of my inadequacy increase, because I'm just going. Any moment someone's going to realize that I'm a fraud, that I don't deserve any of what I achieved. And Lupita Nyong'o, after her Oscar, I go through imposter syndrome with every role. I think winning an Oscar may actually made it worse. Research explained this precisely. Highly competent people know exactly what mastery looks like in their field, so they're aware of everything they don't know yet. They measure the gap between what they are and what there could be. And that gap feels like proof of inadequacy rather than an invitation to keep going. For an actor specifically, when you start, you don't know yet what you don't know. And I was exactly like this. When I began my career as an actor, I thought I was the best actor in the world. With no formal training, before even beginning, I thought I was the best. It was after that I knew it's never really over. As you progress, you begin to understand the depth of the craft. When you work with great professionals, you realize the full extent of what you don't know. It intensifies. And the industry amplified this. Every audition is an evaluation. Every casting is a judgment. Every silence after a submission is a potential confirmation of the fraud. Feedback is rare. You never really know why you got the role or you didn't. In that environment, the brain does not have the objective data it needs to calibrate correctly. It operates in the fog. Confirmation bias does damage. Now, the mechanics. Because imposter syndrome is not a character flaw. It's a documented neurological configuration. 3 brain mechanisms work together to create and maintain this loop. First mechanism, amygdala hyperactivation, the brain's threat detector. The amygdala doesn't distinguish between physical threat and social threat. Being evaluated, judged, exposed, for the amygdala, it's the same as a predator. And in a career where judgment is permanent, casting, agents, directors, audiences, an actor's amygdala is always in overdrive. Second mechanism, predictable error in the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain. The brain constantly maintains an internal model of who you are, what you are capable of, and what you deserve. When external evidence contradicts that model, a good role, an important opportunity, sincere recognition, the brain generates a prediction error, and it treats that error as a threat. If your internal model says, "I'm not good enough for this level," every proof that contradicts it is an alarm. Not because proof is wrong, because the model hasn't updated yet. Third mechanism, conflict monitoring by the anterior cingulate cortex. This zone detects the gap between what you feel and what the evidence says. You objectively know you got the role. You subjectively feel you don't deserve it. The anterior cingulate cortex registers these conflicts and it signals as an alarm. These 3 mechanisms create a feedback loop. The amygdala fires, the prefrontal cortex generates a prediction error, and the anterior cingulate cortex detects the conflict. And the brain tries to resolve this conflict, not by updating the model, but by maintaining the old model and finding proof that confirms it. The brain actively seeks proof of the fraud and dismisses proof of competence. And I want to tell you something personal. Because this mechanism, I've lived it directly and multiple times. The first time I really felt it is when I made the transition to theater to screen. In theater, I had my references. I knew the space, the rehearsal process, the relationship to the audience. I had built something over the years. Then I moved in front of the camera, and everything I thought I knew certainly felt insufficient. The scale of the acting is different. The relationship with the director is different. The technical constraints are different. And that voice arrived immediately. You're a theater actor. You don't belong here. They're going to find out who you really are. The craft was the same, the instrument was the same, but the environment had changed, and my brain hadn't updated this model yet. That's exactly what neuroscience describes: a prediction error. Not proof of inadequacy, a model that hadn't caught up with the new territory. And then, more recently, as I said in episode 31, 7 months of podcast, 30 episodes, guest of international caliber, and I kept making it in French. Why? My wife told me from day one, do it in English, and I didn't listen. I knew I should have done it in English from the beginning. But there was this voice in the background saying, who am I to talk to an international audience about the psychology of an acting career? Is my content solid enough? Is my English solid enough? Am I legitimate? That question, am I legitimate, is the exact definition of the imposter syndrome. And I was living it while building a podcast about this exact mechanism. I teach this, I lived it at the same time, in real time. And here's what I want you to hear. After 15 years in the industry, all the research I've done, all the tools that I've built, I still feel it. It's what you do with that feeling. And here's the reframe that changes everything. Emily McDonald, also known as M on the Brain, the neuroscientist, says your brain doesn't work against you. It works for the identity you haven't changed yet. When you move to a new level, as you do in a video game, your brain generates a prediction error. It detects a gap between what it believes you are, the identity encoded in the medial prefrontal cortex for years, and what reality is now showing. That gap, the brains detect it as a threat. Not because you're insufficient, because the model hasn't been updated yet. So, imposter syndrome is not a sign that you don't belong. It's a sign you just leveled up. And when you're in a video game, when you begin a new level, it's more difficult because you haven't built the tools and your brain hasn't yet integrated that this is now your normal territory. The identity encoded in the medial prefrontal cortex correspond to the old level, not the new one. It's an update in progress, not a permanent truth about who you are and what your value is. And then there is Denzel Washington. And he says something that flips everything around. He said, that last 5 minutes before you go on that Broadway preview, if you don't have that, what the hell am I even doing here feeling, then it's time to quit. Denzel Washington doesn't say imposter syndrome is a problem to solve. He says if you don't feel it, then you should worry. Because that feeling is a sign that the stakes are real, that you care, that you're operating at a level that matters. Jodie Foster, Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks, Lupita Nyong'o, Emma Watson, Denzel Washington, every single one of them feels it. The difference is not that great actors don't have it, it's that they learn to read it differently. Now, I want to address something that generic minds and content doesn't address directly. I talk to you actors. The acting career makes the imposter syndrome particularly intense. First, the instrument is you. You are the instrument. In most professions, you use tools, you use knowledge, you use systems. In acting, you are the instrument. When the instrument is rejected, it doesn't feel like a professional rejection. It feels like a personal rejection. The amygdala doesn't make the distinction. Second, there is no objective metric. A programmer gets the code to run or not. A surgeon's patient recover or not. As an actor, you never really know why you get the role or don't. In that environment, the confirmation bias has no objective data to run against. It runs unchecked. Third, the method acting paradox. And this is specific to actors who use this method, which we'll explore in the episode 33. The method asks you to bring real humanity to the role, your real emotion, real vulnerability, your real truth. And imposter syndrome, which is specifically a shame mechanism, correlates precisely that. The more authentically you work, the more exposed you feel. The more exposed you feel, the more imposter syndrome fires. This is why Brené Brown's work, which we explore in episode 29, connects directly here. She says, shame corrodes precisely the part of us that believes that is capable to change. Imposter syndrome is a form of anticipatory shame, and that shame corrodes the access to deep truth that method acting seeks to liberate. Fourth, the anxiety of the acting career. If anxiety is your default state, the amygdala is already in overdrive before imposter syndrome even arrives. The two mechanisms compound each other. Now, what can you do to manage this imposter syndrome? First, name it out loud. Pauline Clance stated that most people don't know they're experiencing the imposter phenomenon until they hear it described. And when they recognized it, the first effect is relief, not healing. Relief. I am not the only one in the world who feels it. I am not alone. It's a documented neurological pattern. 70% of people experience it. Tom Hanks experiences. Meryl Streep experiences it. For an actor specifically, when you're feeling like that in an audition room, before a self-tape, just name it out loud. Okay, it's the imposter syndrome. It's okay. My model hasn't updated yet. That's all that it is. Naming doesn't make it disappear, but it will stop the shame from making it worse. Now, you can do a mastery journal. Write down, what have I done today to make my career better? What did I do specifically that contributed to be a better actor today? And for an actor, that's important because industry gives you so little feedback. You have to make your own metric yourself. The mastery journal forces the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for the memory, to encode proof of competence with the same priority as the proof of failure. Tool 3, accelerate the identity update. As we said, with M on the Brain and the Professor Bandura, accumulated mastery experiences. Not rare big successes, daily small victories that carve new neural pathways. Stop measuring your progress exclusively on casting and roles, the specific moments when you perfected your craft, when you learned something new, when you watch a good film, when you learn something about the industry, when you watch a podcast about acting career and the psychology around it. That's moments where you feed the prefrontal cortex that build self-efficacy. And then use this feeling as a compass. As Denzel Washington said, if you feel it, you're in the right place. The stakes are real. You care. You're operating at the level that matters. The question is not how you eliminate the imposter syndrome. In a long career, imposter syndrome doesn't disappear. It shifts. At the beginning, it stops you from trying. Later, it stops you from consolidating. And later still, it stops you from going to the next level. Because every new plateau is new unknown territory for the brain. Every new visibility is a new potential threat to the identity. The mechanism is the same. Only the scale changes. The actors who last are not the one without imposter syndrome. They are the one who have learned to live with it as a transition signal, not a truth about their value. If you follow this podcast from episode 26, you have the full map now. Fear, blocking creativity, identity that resists expansion, jealousy as fuel, fear of success, and now imposter syndrome. These are not separate topics. They are the same mechanism from different angles. A brain protecting an identity that hasn't been updated yet. This entire arc of episode is about one thing. What does it take to build an acting career without destroying yourself in the process? And the answer is always understand the mechanism in your brain. Name it, work with it, not against it. Now let's go back to the beginning. Tom Hanks, to Oscar. When are they going to discover that I am in fact a fraud? Now you know what happens neurologically. Imposter syndrome is not a sign that you don't belong, it's a sign that you leveled up and that your brain is beginning to adapt. Let it adapt. Keep going. If this episode resonated, please share it with actors who need to hear it, and subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Episode 33 is coming, and this one I'm most excited about. The neuroscience of method actings. Scientific proof that Stanislavski, Meisner, Strasberg, Chekhov were right all along. And what brain imaging studies tell us about what happens when actors live truthfully under imaginary circumstances. See you there. Until then, join the club because we all deserve happiness. Ciao.